Hey, what's up, everyone? Morey here, and today we're doing a sprinting mechanics breakdown on Julien Alfred in her world-leading 200-meter 21.7 from this past weekend, getting a little bit more in-depth into what she's doing really well and really how to run the 200-meter better, especially for Julien Alfred in particular, for women in particular, and using some strategy to be able to help you in running a faster time. So we're going to go more in-depth into some of the numbers here, as well as looking at the mechanics. And really what stood out to me when getting more in-depth into, we can see within the first 100 meters here that Julien Alfred 11.1, Dean Asher-Smith 11.2, Amy Hunt 11.22. So she's only 0.05 hundredths ahead of Dean Asher-Smith, 0.07 Amy Hunt, but she ends up winning 21.7 by almost a half a second, actually more than half a second, and 0.6 when it comes to beating Amy Hunt. So a big difference. So 0.07 or 0.05 hundredths of a second faster, so barely ahead, to then being a half a second ahead. That's a big change. And so to look at what happened here is we can see she just did a better job of holding her speed. 103 at 110. These are the split times. 1 second at the 120, 102 at the 130, 102. And we see that with Dean Asher-Smith, 104, 107, 106. And before I get too much into the mechanics here, I do think it's important to see that her fastest time, 0.99. We could also see Dean Asher-Smith, 0.99 at the 40-meter mark. We see that also Amy Hunt at the 50-meter mark, 0.99. That's the fastest time. So just gives you an indication of how fast that you need to be able to run the curve, right? They're 1 second in the 40, 0.99 in the 50, 1 second in the 60, 101. So even though they're turning here, looking back at the race, this is still where they're running their fastest time is through this curve. Again, about 40, 50-meter mark, and holding it all the way through until they get to this part of the curve. Now they're not running as fast. Now we can see that looking at Julien Alfred in her mechanics here, she's doing a great job of just being able to, as she's getting around this curve, just being very quick off of that inside step. I do see a lot of athletes get kind of stuck with that inside step and the effectiveness of the lean. Some athletes are not as good at running when they are leaning, but if you want to be successful when you run the 200 or the 400, you have to be able to lean. You have to be able to run still at a very high pace. So just look at the speed here. 1 second in the 10-meter fly is going to be 22 miles an hour. So they're running 22 miles an hour as they are turning. And this is a setup for being able to run obviously 21.7, but even in the 22s when we look at those numbers. So very impressive to be able to do that. Again, wanted to get a little bit into some strategy of how you want to be able to be more effective at running the 2. I do think that the closer you are with that inside arm, that's going to help you out. You can see with Julien Alfred, she's getting a little bit wider with the outside arm to be able to stabilize, which is going to be a little bit different for everybody. We could also see here a little bit wider with the inside arm. Maybe Hunt's also getting a little bit wider with the inside arm. I do think that the outside arm ends up being a little bit more effective of a turning mechanism there as you are getting around. But now what we really want to see here is, and this is the separator, is the second half of the race. And what's really impressive here with Julien Alfred is 103 at the 110, 1 second, 102, 102, 103. Dean Asher-Smith came in second. Still 22.2 is a pretty good time. 104, 107, 106, 106. And even looking at, I was looking at this from the Olympics, and this is Gabby Thomas running 21.8. And we see a lot of the similarities. Notice at the 30-40 meters, she's running sub 1 second. Then she runs 0.98 here at the 50-meter mark. And so a lot of similar things here. And then on the back end, again, 101, 103, 103, 103, 104. So just being able to maintain that speed is important. 203 at the first 10, 201 is what Julien Alfred ran at the Olympics last year. 315 was the first split, but she's coming out much faster. 195, 307. So she's definitely been working on her start, definitely been working on her speed. And we can just see at this stage does such a great job with the front side mechanics. I think it's important to be able to understand is on the front side, how good of a job she's doing at being able to get the knee all the way up, kind of extending the leg, extending the toe up in the air, and then striking right back underneath. And the combination to me ends up being, how well can we maintain a forward lean, okay, kind of stay slightly forward with the body while also being able to get this extension of the knee and the pointing upwards of the toe. Okay, so forward lean, extension of the toe, and then still be able to land and have a quick foot contact time. A lot of that has to do with how well are we using our arms, how well are we using our feet, how active are we with our ankles. I see so many athletes, especially when it comes to being able to run on the track, just overemphasize the stiffness in the ankles, which just looks like that toe is just straight down all the time. We need to be able to get that forward push to be able to increase turnover. I think that's a big thing people have been looking into recently, is how can they get a faster turnover? How do they cycle their legs faster? And it ends up being a combination, again, of that push off and being able to utilize the ankle to push forward, but then still be able to maintain that forward lean, because we'll see a lot of people that will want to stand straight up in the air. And while you end up getting more upright, obviously, as you get to your top speed, you don't want to be too straight up where you eliminate that forward propulsion. The more you're kind of pushing yourself forward, the better forward position your body's in, then that just creates a natural kind of forward momentum. And that's what you need to be able to run fast. You don't want to be obviously over leaning, but as you get that push off going, as you get that extension, there ends up being kind of a natural position that your spine wants to get into, where it can still get out in front, get a lot of force into the ground without leaning back. And once you start leaning back too much, I find that ends up really negatively impacting top performance when it comes to speed and just not being as efficient. What stands out to me with this race with Julien Alfred here is she's just doing such a great job of being efficient in her turnover, in her speed, and being able to strike the ground with a lot of power here, but really not overexerting herself. And that's what makes her very, very dangerous going into this second half of the season, both within the 100 and the 200. I wouldn't be surprised if she doubles this season, if she's running 21.7 now. Even at the end of this, she was like, man, I'm surprised I ran 21.7. I wasn't even really trying that hard, and to run 21.7, which would have won her the Olympic championship or the Olympic gold last season, just shows where she's at from a position standpoint. It looks like she's very explosive out of the start, has a great top speed, is able to maintain the top speed at a very high level, seems very healthy, seems like in a lot of ways she's in a great place. So would love to hear what you guys think about Julien Alfred. And also, where's Shericka Jackson? I've seen that she's competed a couple times in June, but it's interesting that obviously from last year she seemed to have a bit of like some hamstring issues, but we really haven't seen her race very much this season so far, because that to me would be obviously her and Gabby Thomas are amongst the highest competition for her. And so to be able to see Shericka Jackson would also be helpful to see where she's at. But I think Julien Alfred right now is by far the front runner for the 100 after winning the gold medal. And to see where she's at right now, I mean, obviously Sha'Carri is going to be somebody that will come on late in the season, but I just see Julien Alfred just dominating in all the hundreds that she's been in, and even running great 200. So definitely interesting to be able to see. As always, if you like the information, click that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations, leave those down below. Check out some of the things that we do to help out sprinters and being able to improve their speed as well. Talk to you soon.